The best rappers of all time are more than just wordsmiths. They're storytellers, and their songs sometimes take on the power of an epic novel or blockbuster action flick. Sometimes these stories are empowering narratives that motivate the listener to chase his dreams. Other times, they're cautionary tales of how not to live your life if you want to succeed in the game. Here are the best 50 storytelling rap songs of all time. Literary skills in this murder drama, told completely in reverse. We follow the bullet back into the gun as the story gradually works its way to the beginning, as Nas and his crew plan the crime. Me and Jesus is possibly one of the greatest storytelling tracks in all of hip-hop. It hits so many heavy themes: revenge, domestic violence, sex work, murder, remorse, drug use, the generational cycle of violent crime. 8 Ball ultimately pulls off the caper, as the song turns from gritty realism to escapist fantasy. He makes it to the hills of Jamaica and buys palace with 100 rooms, but not before being struck in the head by a Fed's billy club. Here, Eve drops her tough girl veneer and opens up about the hurt she experiences watching a friend deal with an abusive boyfriend, telling stories about doing anything in your means to get by. The titular "pocket full of stones" refers to crack rocks, which Bun and Pimp start selling to always thirsty fiends faster than they can ray up. Chris delivers a cautionary tale to all the would-be gangbangers. He tells a first-person narrative of a young man who pursues a life of crime, at first to feed his family. However, greed becomes his downfall. Mos Def tells the tale of a months-long cat and mouse game. The title character flirts, teases, and leads the rapper on. They eventually hook up, but then she ghosts him, hits the club, and switches teams. Cole's 2016 album dedicated to his late friend James McMillian Jr. The two grew up together, but James' life took a very different path than Jermaine's. The song is presented as a posthumous letter to McMillian's daughter, read from his perspective. Warren G and Nate Dogg rap and sing over a chilled funk groove. In the story, they're cruising the streets of Long Beach, CA with some female companions. However, their night is temporarily disrupted by rivals. Jay-Z makes amends for his past mistakes, from disrespecting his mother to employing his girlfriend as a drug mule, and even shooting his own brother at 12 years old. The story of his relationship with the girl, the aforementioned Betty, naturally, whose enthusiasm for giving oral sex actually matches his drive to receive it. The two tumble into a series of escapades that ends in an orgasm that somehow kills her. Jane is a quick rap about a girl who pissed Eric's sermon off a few years earlier. Eric meets a girl named Jane who wants to hook up, but she'll only go out with him if he brings a friend for her friend. Eric drags Parrish out on a double date. Finally alone with Jane at the end of the night, Eric shows her what he thinks is the night of her life. An all too familiar story. Biz meets a girl at a show and invites her backstage to chill afterward, where his question about whether she has a boyfriend or not is answered rather obliquely, with her explaining that she has a friend. Biz and the girl get closer, but the ever-present friend remains an obstacle to his happiness. The whole thing would be a real downer if Biz weren't so damned funny. Wisdom, street narratives, and chess allegories that entails. All three are present on Gold, where Jesus sets up a massive operation to serve the inexhaustible stream of fiends chasing a high. Jesus' drug kingpin gets filthy rich and miraculously avoids lockup, but at the end of the last verse, he loses his mother, the inspiration for his trip from rags to riches in the first place, and buries her with stacks of cash she never got to see in life. The moment on the record where things first go sideways. Kendrick and some friends are on a night drive smoking weed that turns out to be laced with PCP, and somebody gets the bright idea to pull a home invasion job on a house they'd been scouting for a while. Unfortunately, the inhabitants are home and quickly call the cops, which leads to a chase that Kendrick and his boys magically manage to escape. This song is about the spontaneous murder of a crack dealer named Peter, and Cars One's ace handling of the aftermath. He lays low for a week after the shooting, but he does so at home, which is the first place his victim's crew would think to look for him. They come calling as expected, and Chris kills them. 9 Goes Bang is notable for being one of the early incorporations. Raekwon tells of life on the streets before Ghost steps with the twisted tale of hooking up with his son's girlfriend. The Supreme Clientele has always been one of hip-hop's most gifted storytellers, and this track is just one of many fine examples. A hard rap about a dark time in history, told from the first-person perspective of two different soldiers. The first is a scared draftee who opposes the war. The second is the true and tragic tale of R.A., the rugged man's own family. This is one of the most harrowing tales ever committed to wax, and absolutely one of the best storytelling rap songs of all time. Ice Cube, a known gang affiliate, devises a clever solution to the constant harassment he gets from the police. He takes the first plane out of Los Angeles to St. Louis and establishes himself there by uprooting local dealers from their corners. He makes a killing for a while, but it doesn't take very long for him to get embroiled in a full-on gang war that lands him in prison with no hope for parole. You Got Me is all about a promising relationship that sours due to a lack of trust. Black Thought and Eve's lyrical repartee, along with Erykah Badu's sultry chorus, written by Jill Scott and the band's jazzy playing, made for a left field hit, one that won the Roots a Grammy Award in the process. 8 Million Stories. In the course of one afternoon, he gets robbed, burns a hole in an outfit he's ironing to wear on a date, takes his brother to a toy store to find a toy it turns out they don't have, gets robbed again, and then gets stood up for his date. And that's all in the first verse. After the chorus, he tells us about a nagging, materialistic girlfriend he's trying to get rid of, an ill-timed weed purchase that wins him a trip to the police statement, and believe it or not, a third robbery. Worst luck ever. Freaks of the Industry is a raunchy ode to sex with groupies that tells you more than ever wanted to know, probably, about what it's like to go backstage at a Digital Underground concert. The most memorable moment is the multiple-choice pop quiz in the second verse, wherein Shock G asks what you would do if the sex you're having in the room next to where your friends are hanging out gets too loud. The song starts off as a languid character study of a kid whose love of skateboarding makes him an outcast and a loner. By verse 2, he's met a girl who shares his enthusiasm, and by the end of the third verse, he's got a crew of other skaters to keep him company. Even though the narrator's quest to find a place where he fits in is fulfilled, the chorus refrain, it's a long, twisty heist story that puts G-Rap in the life of a low-level mobster looking for a come-up. Dissatisfied by what he thinks is insufficient pay for all the drug running and money laundering jobs he is required to handle from day to day, he steals a shipment of coke so he can go into business for himself. His bosses catch him on the way to the airport, where he and his girl are plotting to hightail it out of town. He somehow single-handedly takes out an entire crime family and makes his escape, leaving no living enemies. The song recounts Mr. Cheeks' relationship with Renee, a law student on the cusp of a lucrative career. Cheeks falls in love, but it's a doomed romance. He gets an unexpected phone call in verse 3 informing him that Renee has fallen victim to a shooting, and spends the remainder of the song drinking away the pain. It was typified by the goofball hijinks such as those described in Paul Revere, a whimsical tale that reimagines the Beastie Boys as Wild West outlaws who meet in the desert and set their sights on the nearest bar. Mike D and MCA make off with everyone's money and jewelry, and Ad Rock gets the girl and the beer. It was a good day, was a really fucking good day. He gets laid, scores a triple-double in a pickup game, runs a red light in front of the cops without getting stopped, skirts past a rival crew without incident, wins a big game of craps, chills with 2 hort, parties without puking, and finishes with a late-night trip to Fatburger. His luck is too good to be believed, but that didn't stop people from trying to triangulate exactly what day in history he was talking about. January 20th, 1992. Kendrick drops some personal family history on Duckworth. He tells the story of his father, the title character, his future label boss, Anthony, Top Dog, Tiffith, and the remarkable coincidence that saved both their lives and made Kendrick's success possible. Warning is both a clinic for deft lyricism and a showcase for Big's knack for unconventional songwriting. It's basically a phone conversation between Big and a friend who got wind of a plan to rob him. Raekwon steps to the mic with the story of Mike Livonia, a mafia man who dealt coke out of his storefront in the hood. The song's title is slang for a kilogram of cocaine. Throughout the track, the drug is referenced as a symbol of money and power. Mona Lisa tells the story of a girl who hangs out with gangsters to rob the men she pretends to be in love with. The song is rumored to be about famous video vixen. Tupac tackles multiple societal issues head-on in a story the rapper said was inspired by a newspaper report of a real 12-year-old girl who was impregnated by her cousin, and then threw the baby away. Common's story of a childhood crush who grows into a beautiful woman. She eventually loses her way. The song is actually an allegory about the evolution of hip-hop. Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos is a prison break fantasy. It is that, but in the hands of Chuck D, it is also a harsh commentary about institutional racism. Ghost reunites with his Wu-Tang brothers for a wild tale of a neighborhood hottie. Running from the law, he ends up at Yolanda's house, and they proceed to hook up. However, when the cops come knocking, he hides in a closet only to find Method there. Nas closes the album with a first-person account of a dark and depressing tale. The protagonist returns from a trip to Vegas with an engagement ring in his hand, hoping to surprise his fiancée. He finds her in bed with another man. A grotesque murder-suicide follows. Redman drops a weird and funny superhero tale. After saving a lady's cat from a tree, the Superman lover is rewarded with weed and booty. Children's Story is a loose cover of Slick Rick's track of the same name. However, in his version, Mose turns the tale of an ill-fated gangbanger into a commentary on the state of the music business. Stray Bullet is a hard, dark and poetic story told from the first-person perspective of a gangster's bullet. Through a series of scenarios, the Queen's rappers follow the path of stray projectiles as they pass through and destroy the lives of both the guilty and innocent. The former Gato Boy delivers a deadly serious series of murder anecdotes. On the epic track, Scarface drops social and spiritual commentary as he rhymes alternately from the perspective of both killer and victim. Prodigy and Havoc step to the mic and deliver a string of graphic and real scenarios of hood life in the Queensbridge projects. Prodigy's lines about jetting through Marcy would later play a pivotal role in his beef with Jay-Z later on. Snoop tells the fictional dark fantasy of his own death and subsequent resurrection at the hands of the devil. Nas and his crew carrying out a cold revenge plot against a ruthless neighborhood cop and his pothead jump-off in the first verse, and follows them through bullet blazing. Battle when a neighborhood hotshot dips after losing a dice game and returns with burners out. Maxine tells the story of a drug dealer, Mooney, who embarks on a mission to punish a pair of subordinates he catches skimming off the product and winds up getting more than he bargained for. Mooney shows up at his underling Pam Jerkin's mother's house to find Pam and her friend Maxine sniffing the coke they're supposed to be holding for him. Biggie paints a vivid scene of revenge and murder as he and crew move against a foe. The final verse provides a graphic play-by-play of the action. Kim is a filibuster telling of a relationship gone horribly, psychopathically wrong. It's so well told. You feel creepy, voyeuristic, listening to a guy fantasizing about slitting the throat of the mother of his children in a song named after her. Jay quickly pegs his visitor as a member of a rival crew rolling through unfamiliar territories without the proper manpower and, feeding off his adversary's shuddering nervousness, offers him a deal. Give up his stash of drugs and leave with his health intact, or try some slick shit and leave the spot full of holes like Swiss cheese. Dre paints a panorama of a youthful trip to a nightclub and all the therapeutic unwinding, loosen inhibitions and testosterone-fueled bouts of violence that follow. Big Boy's follow-up verse is about finding love there, but clinging to the party life, even as it jibes with his responsibilities to his family and hinders him in the workplace. Here, a troubled Posness gets close enough to his court-appointed social worker Dylan to find out that he might be molesting his daughter Millie. Problem is Dill's considered an upright citizen in the community, so no one believes Millie. The story gets bloody quick as Millie, lonely and pressed for a way out of her personal hell, pulls a gun on Dill and publicly pops him right in the middle of his stint as a shopping mall Santa. The Art of Storytelling Part 1 finds the Atlanta duo swapping verses on two very different stories. Big Boy tells of a romantic encounter with his baby mama, while Andre drops a dark tale of a tragic teen death. Big gets involved in a sexual relationship with a woman who turns out be dating one of the New York Knicks. He's over at her place one night doing the dirty when her man unexpectedly comes home. The girl panics, but Big is cold as Ice threatening to murk dude if things get out of hand. Ice wakes up to the sound of the police at his door first thing in the morning, but instead of panicking or, well, answering the door, he coolly books it to the bathroom and hops out the window. What follows is a labyrinthine bout of bicoastal partying, crime sprees, hard time in county jail. Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst is a two-part commentary on street life and the pursuit of false idols. He delivers two first-person narratives, one of a gang member and the other of a teen prostitute. Immortal Technique delivers a dark and reportedly true tale of young thug named Billy Jacobs who descends ever deeper into the abyss of drugs, rape, and murder, until he ultimately kills himself. Impossible is a public service announcement delivered from the real-life street perspective of the Wu-Tang Clan. On the track You God, Raekwon and Ghostface Killah state their case against gun violence. Ghostface's graphic verse about a friend's death by gunshot took home the verse of the year 1997 in the Source magazine and was declared by Urza to be the greatest Wu-Tang verse of all time. Stan's creepy from jump, writing borderline stalkery letters to M, but it isn't until he goes to a show and feels jilted by M that he actually loses it. When M finally gets around to answering Stan's letter, he pieces it together that Stan's both the creep from the sketchy fan mail and the guy from the news who offed himself in his car. Told from the perspective of a handgun, I Gave You Power is a dark parable about gang violence and the bloody cost of the quest for money and power. With phrases like, How You Like Me Now, I Go Blow. Nas makes reference to hip-hop culture's glorification of guns. Slick Rick offers to tell a couple kids a bedtime story, but instead of an age-appropriate fairy tale, they get a violent cautionary yarn about a child who follows a friend into a life of crime to disastrous results. A petty stick-up job quickly goes sour when the victim turns out to be an undercover cop, which sets off a mousetrap-like chain of events that lands him dead in the streets at the age of 17. Thank you guys so much for watching this entire countdown. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to drop your favorite storytelling rap songs in the comments below, and let me know if I missed out on anything too. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace.